I'm Brandon, and this is Drea, and we've been married almost 8 years now. Got 2 boys. Ty is 5, Bryson's 3.
3 months ago, life was pretty normal. I stayed home with the boys. We're homeschooling boys, so a day might look like school in the morning, playing in the afternoon. Able to spend a lot of time together as a family because Brandon works from home. Sure. 3 months ago, didn't seem to have so much to worry about. Greatest concerns we had were generally Brandon's traveling, if there was enough work, what we'd be teaching the boys next, just kind of minor things. So I started having morning sickness like symptoms around 3 years ago, shortly after the birth of Bryson. Actually, it never really just stopped. Like, he was born, and I just kept being sick. We saw so many doctors, but the entire time there was just never a diagnosis of anything. I had a lump on my neck that had been diagnosed as a inflamed lymph node. Some tests had been run on it early on. Ultrasound, it came back clear, didn't show any abnormal activity. The doctors didn't seem to have much concern over the lump or the fact that I was getting sick. We kept pursuing just doctor after doctor, not really knowing which way to turn, and it was kind of exhausting along the way because you just don't know what to do next. And as gross as it is to be sick all the time, you just get used to it, so it does become just an inconvenience, something that, like, I kind of knew it would occur in the morning and I would just carry on from there. So I talked to my general practitioner and asked him if he could run an allergy test to see if there's anything I'm allergic to. And I went into his office on February 2nd to take the test, or actually to get the script for the test. And I went in assuming I wasn't going to have an actual doctor's visit because he's a pretty close friend. He was just going to write the prescription to go take the test. And his secretary put me through into a room, and the physician's assistant came through and started asking questions. And he started just taking notes on the different symptoms that I was having. And our doctor walked by the room and saw my chart and walked in, and he was kind of surprised because they were symptoms he wasn't aware of. And so he ordered some tests to be done, and I took a CAT scan that day, and he ordered a bunch of blood work and a couple different things, and we were going to just take it as a jumping off point, like, let's start narrowing this down and see what might even be causing the problem. Yeah, so the doctor called and said, I found it. And I said, you found what? And he said, well, I got your CAT scan results back, and there's a tumor. And I said, wow, okay. And he goes on to start describing what they believe the tumor is. And he had started telling me that he believed it to be a benign type of tumor. And he started to tell me about the location of it, mentioned that it looked to be close to my vagus nerve. So it was right about that time my phone shut off, and I lost power for a couple hours. 2 hours later, I got back in the car and got to hear the rest of what the diagnosis was. Yeah, really, I was pretty excited to get off the phone and just kind of weighing through the emotions of, wow, 3 years we've spent wondering what's wrong, and we have an answer. Like, this could really be it. There was some relief in knowing there's something really wrong. Like, it's not going to just go on forever. We have an answer. Yeah. So as I was talking to Brandon, the weight of what I was sharing really just kind of fell heavy on me. I realized, a tumor, that's not great news. And I started kind of thinking through what that would mean. You kind of associate tumor with, a lot of negative health concerns that come with that. And I think it was at the moment that it really started sinking in and became pretty emotional.
It was very shocking to me. Instantly just felt like this huge just knot in my stomach and just tighten up. And, I was just wishing that I could be with her instead of her driving in a car and not being with her at that time.
And they also informed us that this was something that was a specialty that would need to be dealt with elsewhere. There's nobody locally that would look at that kind of tumor. So he referred us to a surgeon in Miami, at the University of Miami. I knew it was a tumor, but I was kind of under this delusion that it was still going to be a pretty simple thing, like, oh, it's likely benign. They'll just go in and take it out. At that point, I don't think I had a very realistic view of what this was.
So then we, drove over and met with the surgeon in Miami for the first time, and he was able to just kind of take all the information that he gathered and all the tests, a lot of different tests, and was able to kind of explain what we could expect. And it was very easy to explain, and he was very knowledgeable, and but also very realistic. And so it was pretty emotional for Drea to hear a lot of the stuff, because it was things that were going to impact her daily life.
Such as, and it could have varied, but they said to expect not to have much of a voice, or at least have a voice that was so different that it would be, not mine, and I remember thinking, and I guess it's kind of silly, but it was one of the things that put me over the edge. I remember thinking, my own kids aren't going to know who I am based on my voice.
From the time we knew we had met with the doctor in Miami for the first time until the surgery was scheduled, it was about a month, and it was a very hectic month. There was just tests after tests. I think overall through that process in the hospital that week, for the most part, I was pretty stable and knew I had to be, and I wanted to be, for Drea specifically. But for the most part, I was really confident in that God was in control, and that we had the blessing of having access to some of the best doctors and best hospital in the world, and so I was pretty confident. At the same time, there were also certain moments, when a couple times when she would go back into actual those surgeries, where I would walk out and have pretty emotional time just by myself, just just not knowing what was going to happen, and realizing how serious and significant these surgeries were.
Thursday morning we got to the hospital and checked in and got all the prep work ready, and surgery was smooth. They put me asleep and I woke up and all was well. Tumor was gone. But
right about the 2.5, 3 hour mark, I think, got a phone call from the one of the doctor's assistants to say that we're closing up the surgery. Everything went as planned, and no complications. Didn't have to need the other 2 surgeons. Didn't have to go in through the ear or the head, and it was great news, because everything through that whole week had really just gone at the best case scenario for what they expected to happen through this process. So
it's kind of one of those things, you ask God for so much, but sometimes don't even expect it to go that good. Not that he can't do it, but somehow just it seems like a lofty dream, and he just provided a recovery that was so much more than we ever even knew to ask for, and that was just incredible. To walk away, have a voice, they didn't expect that. They didn't even have to get a feeding tube. I was able to be home again in 2 days versus, they had expected at least a week. Just beyond what we had even imagined, best case scenario to be. We have been just blessed beyond measure by a huge God, by amazing friends and family. We couldn't have made it through this and been so joyous through the whole experience without the blessing everybody's been to us. The whole way we've been comforted, we've been loved, we've been taken care of. That's just amazing.
Yeah, I don't think there's words that can explain how grateful we are to just how incredible people have been to us through this whole process. It's just an amazing feeling to be loved and to feel that and to see that and to see people reaching out and sacrificing their own time and resources and just all sorts of things just to be willing and trying to help us through this time. And so it's really been, like I said, overwhelming in a positive way, to feel and to know all the prayers that have been offered for us and are continuing to be, and then all the physical acts of service and help and love that we've been given by not only friends and family, but also people we don't know. And so it's just been really great. I mean, it's not an experience we ask for or would ever want, but to go through it has been incredible.
Along the way, there were a couple verses that have just been so dear to us, and one of them that we really clung to was Psalm 50:15. Trust me in your time of trouble, and I will rescue you, and you will give me glory. And not just for us, but how many have offered up their prayers and trusted God to do His work in an amazing way on our behalf. And through those prayers, and through the trust, through our trust, God has rescued us. But we've also had the opportunity, as have so many who have stood with us in this storm,